Good day, everyone. I am Janine Ramos Capanas.
I am Mollie Flores.
And I am Jasmer Silvestre.
And we are the Group 3.
Our topic is about exceptionality. Exceptionality is the state of being one of the kind or different from others. It can be below the normal or advanced. These are the people who can be gifted for being unusually excellent or unusually behind the normal stage of their age, which considered to have these abilities. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 2004 is the law where it guarantees inclusivity and recognizes the disabilities and special needs of different children such as autism, deaf, or blindness. These are the learners that has a diverse academic or behavioral needs. This is why they are mostly called as people with special needs. These children are not freak. They have special and unusual needs that they lack as a person. Being exceptional can be a disability or giftedness. Either way, regardless of being exceptional, every person should be respected and accepted by the society. Now, let's proceed to the 7 categories of exceptionality. Here is Ma'am Janine Capanas to explain and discuss to you what are the 7 categories of exceptionality.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Jasmer. Let's move on to 7 categories of exceptionality. Learning disabilities. Learning disabilities are disorders that affect the ability to understand or use spoken or written language, do mathematical calculations, coordinate movements, or direct attention. Although learning disabilities occur in very young children, the disorders are usually not recognized until the child reaches school age. I have here the types of learning disabilities. First one is dyscalculia, a specific learning disabilities that affect a person's ability to understand number and learn math facts. The second one is dysgraphia, a specific learning disability that affects a person's handwriting ability and fine motor skills. The third one is dyslexia, a specific learning disability that affects reading and related language-based processing skills. The fourth one is nonverbal learning disabilities, has trouble interpreting nonverbal cues like facial expressions or body language and may have poor coordinations. Next is developmental delays. A developmental delay refers to a child who has not gained the developmental skills expected of him or her, compared to others of the same age. Delays may occur in the areas of motor function, speech and language, cognitive, play, and social skills. Causes of developmental delay. There is not one causes for delays in development. Factors that may contribute can occur before a child is born, during the birth process, and after birth. There are 4 major types of developmental delays. There are cognitive, sensomotor, speech, and language. Cognitive delays may affect a child's intellectual functioning, interfering with awareness and causing learning difficulties that often become apparent after a child begins school. Children with cognitive delays may also have difficulty communicating and playing with others. The second one is motor delays. Delays in motor skills interfere with a child's ability to coordinate large muscles group such as those in the arms and legs, and the smaller muscles such as those in the hands. Infants with gross motor delays may have difficulty rolling over or crawling. Older children with this type of delay may seem clumsy or have trouble walking up and down stairs. Those with fine motor delays may have difficulty holding onto small objects, such as toy, or doing tasks such as tying shoes or brushing teeth. Next is social, emotional, and behavioral delays. Children with behavioral and developmental delays, including those with related neurobehavioral disorder such as autism, spectrum disorder, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, often also have social, emotional, or behavioral delays due to differences in brain development. They may process information or react to their environment differently than children of the same age. These delays can have an impact on the child's ability to learn, communicate, and interact with others. Speech delays. Some speech delays are receptive language disorders, in which a child has difficulty understanding words or concepts. Children with this type of speech delay may have trouble identifying colors, body parts, or shapes. Others are expansive language disorder, in which a child has a reduced vocabulary of words and complex sentences for his or her age. A child with this type of speech delay may be slow to babble, talk, and create sentences. Often, a child with a speech delay has a combination of receptive and expressive delays. Next one is emotional and behavioral disorders. Emotional and behavioral disorders are specific mental health disorders that cause extreme difficulties with both emotions and behaviors. They affect a child's functioning in most of all areas of their life. Emotional and behavioral disorders, EBD, make it difficult for a child to regulate emotions and make appropriate behavior choices in a wide variety of situations. I have here types of emotional and behavioral disorders. The following disorders can occur in children over the age of 5. While signs can be present before age 5, a diagnosis is almost never made in very young children. Even in older children, these diagnoses are made only with extreme caution, as there is controversy around the notions of labeling children. Children can be diagnosed with the following types of emotional and behavioral disorders. An anxiety disorder is a type of mental health condition. If you have an anxiety disorder, you may respond to certain things and situations with fear and dread. You may also experience physical signs of anxiety, such as pounding heart and sweating. It's normal to have some anxiety. Next is bipolar disorder, formerly called manic depressive illness or manic depression. It's a mental disorder that causes unusual shift in mood, energy, activity, levels, concentration, and the ability to carry out day-to-day tasks. Next is the psychotic disorder, are severe mental disorders that cause abnormal thinking and perceptions. People with psychosis lost touch with reality. Two of main symptoms are delusions and hallucinations. Obsessive compulsion disorder, or OCD, is a disorder in which people have recurring unwanted thoughts, ideas, or sensations obsessions that make them feel driven to do something repetitively, compulsions. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, is a brain disorder that affects how you pay attention, sit still, and control your behavior. It happens in children and teens and can continue into the adulthood. Oppositional defiant disorder, or ODD, is a type of behavior disorder. It is mostly diagnosed in childhood. Children with ODD are uncooperative, defiant, and hostile toward peers, parents, teachers, and other authority figures. They are most troubling to others than they are to themselves. Conduct disorder is a type of behavior disorder. It's when a child has antisocial behavior. He or she may disregard basic social standards and rules. He or she may also be irresponsible. Next is communication disorder. A communication disorder is an impairment in the ability to receive, send, process, and comprehend concept or verbal, nonverbal, and graphic symbol systems. A communication disorder may be evident in the processes of hearing, language, and/or speech. A communication disorder may range in severity from mild to profound. Types of communication disorders are grouped into four main categories: speech disorders, language disorders, hearing disorders, and central auditory processing disorders. Speech disorders, as speech causes an individual to have difficulty with creating or forming speech sounds. Speech disorders include articulation, fluency, and voice. Language disorders. A language disorder is defined as an impairment to an individual's use or understanding of verbal, written, or other language system. Different from speech disorders, language disorders refer to one's expressive and receptive language. Next is hearing disorders. Hearing disorders prevent an individual from hearing at total capacity, limiting an individual's ability to produce, comprehend, or maintain speech. Someone with an hearing disorder can have difficulty recognizing and understanding auditory materials. Someone with a hearing disorder can be described as deaf or hard of hearing. Central Auditory Processing Disorder or CAPD. Central auditory processing disorders are caused by deficits that impact how individuals convert the information in their central auditory nervous system or CANS. A central auditory processing disorder is diagnosed when an individual has difficulty processing audible signals. These challenges are not because of peripheral or intellectual impairments. CAPD are limitations in how an individual analyzes, stores, and receives information from audible signals. Next is hearing disabilities. Hearing loss affects people of all ages and can be caused by many different factors. The three basic categories of hearing loss are sensorineural hearing loss, conductive hearing loss, and mixed hearing loss. Here is what patients should know about each type. Sensorineural hearing loss is a person who having issues in the inner ear cochlea or acoustic nerve. Damage to these structures can be occurred due to the exposures to loud noises, illness, meningitis, ototoxic medications, or it can happen simply due to genetics or the aging process. Sensorineural hearing loss is permanent and treatments include the use of hearing aids and cochlear implants. Conductive hearing loss occurs when something prevents sounds from passing through the outer or middle ear and into the inner ear. This can occur when air sacs or fluid builds up in the ear canal, or when there is damage to the eardrums or bones in the middle ear ossicles. There may also be a birth defect that prevents sound waves from entering the ear to stimulate the acoustic nerve, such as atresia or microtia. Mixed hearing loss. In some cases, a person may be suffering from both a sensorineural and conductive hearing loss. In this instance, the issue is classified as a mixed hearing loss. Mixed hearing loss affects both the inner ear and outer or middle ear, and as such, it can lead to more profound hearing loss. Next is visual impairment. Visual impairment is a term experts use to describe any kind of vision loss, whether it's someone who cannot see at all or someone who has partial vision loss. Some people are completely blind, but many others have what's called legal blindness. The International Classification of Diseases 11-2018 classifies vision impairment into two groups: distance and near-presenting vision impairment. The distant vision impairment, mild visual acuity worse than 6-12 to 6-18, moderate visual acuity worse than 6-18 to 6-60, severe visual acuity worse than 6-60 to 3-60, blindness, visual acuity worse than 3-60, near vision's impairment, person experience of vision impairment varieties depending upon many different factors. This includes, for example, the availability of preventions and treatment interventions, access to vision rehabilitations, including assistive products such as glasses or white cans, and whether the person experienced problems with inaccessible buildings, transport, and information. Physical disabilities. Physical disabilities may affect either temporarily or permanently a person's physical capacity and or mobility. There are many different causes of physical disability, but they can include inherited or genetic disorders, serious illness, and injury. Types of physical disabilities. Acquired brain injuries are due to damage that happen to the brain after birth. They can be caused through a wide range of factors including a blow to the head, stroke, alcohol, or drugs, infections, disease such as AIDS or cancer, or a lack of oxygen. Spinal cord injury or SCI. The spinal cord can become injured if too much pressure is applied and if the blood and oxygen supply to the spinal cord is cut. When the spinal cord has been damaged, it leads to a loss of function such as mobility or healing. Spina bifida. Spina bifida is the incomplete formations of the spine and spinal cord in utero. It can cause the spinal cord and nerves to be exposed on the surface of the back instead of being inside a canal of bone surrounded by muscle. Cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is typically due to an injury to the developing brain before and during birth, caused by a reduced blood supplies and lack of oxygen to the brain. Cystic fibrosis or CF is an inherited genetic condition which affects the body's respiratory, digestive, and reproductive system. Next is epilepsy. Epilepsy is a neurological condition where a person has a tendency to have recurring seizures due to the sudden burst of electrical activity in the brain. Seizures can cause unusual movements, odd feelings of sensations, a change in the person's behavior, or cause them to lose consciousness. Multiple sclerosis or MS occurs when the myelin sheath, protective tissue around nerve fibers in the body, becomes damaged, causing random patches or scars. The scars can interfere with messages sent through the central nervous system, affecting the brain optic nerves and spinal cord. Muscular dystrophy. Muscular dystrophy is a group of genetic disorder that lead to a process and irreversible weakness and loss of muscle mass. There are more than 30 different types of muscular dystrophy and each has a separate cause. Tourette syndrome. Tourette syndrome is a neurological disorder which involves involuntary and repetitive vocalizations, sounds, and movements called tics. These tics are neurological, not behavioral, which means a person with Tourette syndrome cannot control them. Last is dwarfism. Dwarfism is short stature, abnormal skeletal growth, which can be caused by over 300 genetic or medical conditions. It is generally defined as an adult height of 4 feet 10 inches or less, with the average height of someone with dwarfism being 4 feet.
The 13 legal categories of exceptionality. Number 1. Autism, a developmental disability significant affecting verbal and nonverbal communication and social interaction. Autism has three primary features. Number 1. Restricted range of social interaction. Number 2. Impaired communication skills. And lastly, number 3. Persistent pattern of stereotypical behaviors, interests, and activities. The second legal categories of exceptionality is deaf blindness, a concomitant hearing and visual impairments, the combination of which causes such severe communication and other developmental and educational needs that they cannot be accommodated in special education programs solely for children with deafness or children with blindness. Number 3. Deafness, a hearing impairment that is so severe that the children interfered in processing linguistic information through hearing with or without amplification that adversely affects a child's educational performance. Number 4. Emotional disturbance, a condition exhibiting one or more of the following characteristics over a long period of time and to mark degree that adversely affect a child's educational performance. A. An inability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors. B. An inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationship with peers and teachers. C. Inappropriate types of behaviors or feelings under normal circumstances. D. A general pervasive mood of unhappiness or depression. And lastly, letter E. A tendency to develop physical symptoms or fears associated with personal or school problems. The term includes is schizophrenia. Number 5. Hearing impairment. An impairment in hearing, whether permanent or fluctuating, that adversely affects a child's educational performance, but that is not included under the definition of deafness in this section. Number 6. Intellectual disability. A significantly sub-average general intellectual functioning existing concurrently with the peaks and adaptive behavior and manifested during the developmental period that adversely affects a child's educational performance. Number 7. Multiple disability. A concomitant impairments such as mental retardation, blindness, mental retardation, and orthopedic impairments, the combination of which causes such as severe educational needs that they cannot be accommodated in special education program solely for one of the impairments. Number 8. Orthopedic impairment, a severe orthopedic impairment that adversely affect a child's educational performance. Number 9. Other health impairments having limited strength, vitality, or alertness, including a heightened alertness to environmental stimuli that result in limited alertness with respect to the educational environment. Number 10. Specific learning disability, a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or in using language, spoken or written, that may manifest itself in an imperfect ability to listen, think, speak, read, write, spell, or to do mathematical discussion. Number 11, speak or language impairment. A communication disorder such as stuttering impaired, articulation, language impaired, or a voice impairment that adversely affects a child's educational performance. 12. Traumatic brain injury. An acquired injury to the brain caused by an external force, resulting in total or partial functioning disability or psychosocial impairment or both that adversely affects a child's educational performance. Number 13. Visual impairment. An impairment in vision that even with correction adversely affect a child's educational performance.
So, before we end our discussion for today, always remember that we should not treat exceptional learners any differently. We should treat them like on how we treated those typical children, because there is a clear indication that they might actually think and interpret that they do not belong, that they are not completely normal or common, that something might be wrong with them, and that may be exceptional, special, and unique among several children they inevitably encounter or occur with, and it is actually easy for them to realize or sense it, since our exceptional learners are gifted indeed when it comes to intellectual ability. Likewise, it is our obligation or responsibility as a teacher to facilitate and assist all of our learners to be belong, which means that part of our work is to keep educating the more substantial number of people about the needs of a child who may have been characterized as special or different, in order to help them become or somehow be respected, appreciated, loved, included, welcomed, and specifically accepted as a part of society. Even though children with impairments can walk, speak, and respond inconsistently or differently than you, try to understand that they are not vastly or completely different, and therefore we should not treat them differently. Always keep in mind that with the right resources, children with special needs may succeed in the classroom and school atmosphere. Furthermore, since society is truly concerned about exceptional learners, they provide, support, and implement programs and diverse institutions that are beneficial to both exceptional learners and their parents, so that they will be aware enough of the essential things that they should know to help their children with special needs. An example of such a program is Self-Contained SPED, which was formerly alluded to as a classroom in which a special education teacher is in charge or responsible for all academic topics within a local state school. The classroom is most often partitioned from general education classes. So lastly, we must be prepared with different expertise to be able to educate a broader range of abilities and knowledge. Keep in mind that parents, teachers, and society share responsibilities, work cooperatively, and join forces to meet the needs, happiness, and most importantly, progress or development of children with special needs.
And that's the end of our discussion for today. I hope you learned something from us. Until the next meeting, thank you and have a nice day.